mean, I think it's poetry in a lot of ways because it's a meditation, but it's poetic in the sense that you're able to detach from time and space in a lot of ways too, because you feel free. You feel free to walk through a field you never thought to walk through before, and then you see a turtle, and it just makes your day. And you stare at the turtle. I mean, I think you look at children. I mean, I remember having a wooded backyard, and there was constantly this endless adventure that awaited us because there was no supervision. There was no, the local forest, man. I mean, no matter how far it is, the urban jungle is definitely, one way to just wander the earth, people watch, just observe, quiet the inner dialogue, and allow, the vibrancy and the canvas of life to paint glorious pictures in human form. But I've always kind of thought when you walk around a forest, you tend to appreciate people more. And when I walk around the city, I tend to appreciate trees more just due to their scarcity. So, it depends on what you're looking for. But I think a lot of times too, like as a massage therapist, I'll sit at a cafe in a city or a town, a village, and I'll just look at people's ankles, or I'll just look at people's eyes or their butts, and I'll just make this mental, kind of note as to all the different shapes of people, and have compassion for the hurt ones, be like, God damn for the gorgeous ones, and not really making judgments per se, but just kind of observing, the varieties of human form. So I think when you wander, just to observe, open your eyes, and you can see the same tree, that you've seen 1,000 times before, if you give it your attention. So I think wandering, we talked about Walden prior to getting, no, I'm sorry, Henry David Thoreau, who wrote Walden, prior to, and he made a reference to sauntering, which I think is also synonymous with wandering, which goes back to the French word senterre, which means, or senter, terre? One of the two, which means blessed earth. So it means that you're walking the earth as if it's a blessing, and you're blessing the earth in a sacred way. So I think, you look at a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Vietnamese monk. He makes a lot of like kind of wandering mindfulness meditations, being aware of your breath, being aware of your step, but tuning out this notion of I got to be here now, be somewhere now, as opposed to being here now.
Do you think that for people that approach this word, that are resistant to this word, there's a certain fear involved, because the idea of wandering and all that we've been talking about right now is about kind of being on your own. It's this level of being internal and being on a journey and being solitude. Do you think that when they hear that word, that's something that maybe they're not ready to face, thus they don't wander? Because I feel like when we do wander, in the terms that we're talking about, it does force us to interact with people, and it forces us to have this connection to people that we normally wouldn't approach, because we're in a situation now that we haven't planned, we haven't, set our destination and our journey, that we go from our, picked up car at the airport to the hotel, to the activity that we're doing, that we're forced out of our comfort zone. And that's something that people potentially could be fearful of wandering, where somebody like me or you, we're excited by that opportunity. We're excited that we don't know who we're going to meet along our journey. And I guess I'm just trying to get at, my question is, taking it from the other side of, why doesn't everybody wander? Why isn't this something, if we've done it in the past and we've maybe come from this culture of nomadic tribes and people that are wandering all the time, what has stopped?
Well, my friend, there's a culture of fear that exists, that you should fear your neighbor and fear strangers, and the notion that the world is a scary place, and we're not in the same. I mean, for a long time, the Protestant work ethic I think we find here in America doesn't really make time for even mental wandering. I was reading an article by a guy called Sapolsky, who has written one of my favorite books on neuroscience called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, talking about how even just mentally wandering actually activates, just letting your brain wander while you're at work will actually activate new neurosynapses that will give you answers to what you're looking for, and kind of allowing the subconscious to come in. So I think what it comes down to is people are afraid of the subconscious, whether it's, the devil's, what is it? The old saying, it's something about how the idle mind. Right, well, an idle mind is the devil's playground. And Sapolsky says, which makes me wonder if an idling engine is the devil's mode of transportation. I think in a world that only values productivity or work ethic, these sort of, and is kind of crippling from the amount of stress-related illnesses that it's also undergoing at the same time. I think there's a seriousness about life that I don't think the rest of the world agrees with. Look at the Spanish, look at the Italians, look at the Greeks. Their productivity might not be the greatest, their economy isn't the greatest, but they value the siesta, they value daydreaming, they value, going home and making love to their wife and then going back to work, and I think when we wander, we free the narrowness of our minds, to be open. And I think we fear the subconscious. I think we fear the horizon, because we want to hold on to our families. We want to hold on to our lovers. We want to hold on to the lives that we've built for ourselves. But ask any person that's been affected by a lot of Indonesians that I met who were affected by the tsunamis, or Thai people, and you're like, how are you still a happy? I mean, you witnessed your whole family go, your house go, your business go. You ended up with nothing, and you were essentially, in a position to crumble. And despite how traumatic that is, you wandered around seeing who you could help. You wandered seeing how you could be of service. And the stories that I kept hearing was that because there was such a need for help and helping their other fellow person, they just started to walk around and make life better again. So I think you never know how much. I think there's a lot of people that feel a lack of belonging. I think there's a lot of people that feel they don't have purpose. And I would say to them, pick up your balls and take a wander and see, and just walk around and say, hey, how can I help? And just see how you can help.
Exactly, Brett. I mean, the idea of these people wandering around to ask how they can be in service, how they can help. There's a direct relationship to kind of bring it full circle. When reading these quotes, the word I often see associated with wander is wonder. So wandering brings about this greater sense of wonderment, and it opens your mind to whether it is being helpful, service, creativity, whatever it is. It's allowing the opportunity for your mind to be a sponge now, and thinking bigger picture and wonderment. So there's a great relationship between these two words that often get left behind. Sometimes we just talk about wandering, like in the beginning, about being lost and out of place. But I think it's more of wandering and increasing our wonderment.
I think some of our greatest thinkers, or even religious figures, a lot of people believe that Jesus, went to India, or at least traveled a bunch, to kind of get a lot of the insights that he got. The Buddha was meant to have traveled quite far as well, some people have said. But even if you read someone like Thoreau or Kerouac, they always mention the stars or the cosmos, or, how they grant themselves the time to be able to stare into the sky at night. And I think sedentary people forget about the cosmos. As in the cities, you only can see a couple of stars anyway. But, I just think back to laying on this beach in Lanai, hanging out with a couple of people around a fire, and there's a 5-star resort right next to us. And, you can see the TVs flickering and people sitting in front of them, presumably on quite nice beds. And there we are on the beach, hearing the lapping of the water, staring into thousands and thousands of stars, and what that does for you. And I think when you wander the earth and you don't need to have it figured out, nature is there for you. The cosmos is there for you. Stare into the fire, and you stare within yourself. Stare into the cosmos, and you look, to the most vast parts of your inner world. Wandering is nothing to identify with. It's a calling, and it just seems that when we make a commitment to self-love, as we've discussed in other things, sometimes just freeing yourself from a situation, whether it's healthy or unhealthy rather, or whatever, allow yourself to feel freedom. And I think wandering for however long, wherever you have to go, but that it gives you the opportunity to stare up at the infinite that is space, whether it's at night or lay out and lay on the grass, just to find that meadow, or sit under a tree like humans have for tens of thousands of years. There's something that makes us, that beckons us to be happier people. And I think wandering has a lot to do with it. The happiest people I've ever met were people that allowed themselves to wander.
That's a great transition point to what did I learn about wandering today. For me, wandering has always been ingrained in my core, but today's topic exposed the idea that perhaps this seed exists in all of our cores, and it's whether or not we water that seed for growth that determines the amount of wandering we do. Wandering is a cultural right, and for those who allow this process to happen are rewarded beyond the sacrifices made to initiate it. And make no mistake about it, it does take initiation beyond the social stigma of purpose, over the fear of financial stability, and a gigantic leap into the unknown, with a faith that not that will be caught, but trampoline to the next level of our being. Wandering, traveling, adventuring, while different in semantics, encourage a level of wonderment that can't be felt from our everyday life. We're not bound by definition of the word, for this gift lies right in our very own backyards. We only need the courage to go out and explore it, without judgment and free from expectation. It is then that we are truly wandering. To enjoy more content from The Spoken You, download our podcast from iTunes or Stitcher. Write to us on thedailyu.org, or follow the discussion on Twitter at @thedailyu, or like us on Facebook. As always, join us here every Monday where we challenge the status quo and engage our brains for something beyond the screen. This is The Spoken You with Jeff and Brett, signing off.